Hello, my name is Jessie Lysant, and this is my applied assignment. All right, so my topic was on the biases, challenges, and rewards special education teachers and providers go through to ensure inclusion and fairness to not only the disabled individual, but with their family and community as well. This is important to me because becoming an educator myself, I these are the things that I've worried about that have made me kind of question if I really want to become a special education teacher or not, is how to handle certain situations when conflicts or issues arise. And at the aspects that I use with inclusion is education and family. So now this is not just like this topic is not limited to that. It's it's can also include social services, employment, communities, and technology. But because I am mostly focusing on education and family just in this project. So I did do an interview with Jocelyn. She is a special education teacher in the district that I plan on teaching in, hopefully. Um, she is actually what made me decide that I do want to do special education. So thank you, Jocelyn. I chose her because she has firsthand experience with this topic. You know, she is a special education teacher, so she knows how to handle conflict when it happens because she's done it before. Um, so the course material that I used was the first one was from Module 6. It was the article Family Life Goes On, Disability in Contemporary Families. So I got to get my notes. Um, so I like how what was really important to me was how it mentioned that the surveys that are done on those with those individuals with disabilities is usually with their families. So the surveys don't include the non-family households, but they're worthy of being counted because these individuals may be particularly vulnerable to policy changes that affect the availability of critical support. Hmm? And poverty is more frequently a characteristic of families with disabilities compared to the general population, and poverty is a major social determination of health and quality of life. So we've all heard, can't buy me love, when money can't buy you happiness, but it can definitely make your quality of life better, especially for individuals with disabilities, because the therapies, the medication, the special care, the hospital visits, those cost a lot of money. Those are not cheap, and not every healthcare plan is going to cover that kind of stuff. And a lot of it you're going to have to pay out of pocket. So, and the ones that you don't are for poverty, low income people. So it's kind of like you don't have a choice but to be poor if you want good care. I'm not going to get into that. All right. So I also really want to point out, it really stood out to me, the family caregiver is not a family problem. That the article says that because that is true. Um, because it is portrayed in media and it's just like thought that, oh, you have a disabled child, sibling, or parent, and you have to take care of them. Oh, you're throwing away your life. How terrible. But that's not the case. It can be rewarding. It usually, according to this article and surveys, it is rewarding. And these families have better relationships and attachments compared to a general population family. Okay, and so the other content was from Module 5, Equity Gaps for Students with Disabilities. Yeah. Um, so I like how they talk about racism and classism. Just because someone is disabled does not make those kind of things disappear. You know, the racism and classism is still around, and this is part of the equity gap. And they talk about how achievement gap or opportunity gap gets kind of called equity gap also, but these are all three different things. We all read this article, so I'm not gonna, tell you guys what the achievement gap is and the opportunity gap, but I am going to define the equity gap. The equity gap highlights ableist, racist, classist, and other identity-based biases that entrench inequitable treatment of students with disabilities despite attempts to include them. So this confronts that there are still these racist, classist stereotypes, biases that are occurring to those with disabilities, and it's showing that there is a gap because of it. The article also talks about differentiated instruction, says that it has been used to refer to strategies and models of instruction that assist teachers in planning instruction suited to fit each student and their particular needs. So, little Billy is not going to learn the same way as little Susie, And it doesn't matter if you have a disability or not. No one learns the same. You put a whole group of people together and you give them the same instructions with the same lesson, you're not going to get the exact same outcome. People are going to answer differently, are going to solve the problems differently, are going to think differently. And I really like this differentiated instruction because it requires for you to be more flexible in your instruction, because people are creative in different ways, express themselves in different ways, communicate in different ways, learn in different ways. Like, I cannot sit in a classroom and listen to a lecture and learn that way. I can't. But if they're writing everything down and I'm taking notes, that's different. I'm a very visual and hands-on learner, but not everyone else is like that either, So a differentiated instruction, I think, is beneficial for everyone. All right, so my research was, I only went through the Arizona State University Library, ASU Library. I don't know why I said that all. An examination of principals' perceptions, knowledge, and training regarding their preparation to be an effective instructional leader for English language learners and special education programs. Holy camole, that's a huge title. So I know that my topic is mostly concentrated on teachers and their relationships and with students and how to deal with like conflicts and make sure that there's inclusion, yada yada. Principals play a huge part in the students' outcomes and in the teacher's ability to plan and teach correctly. So I like this article because it does have a section on historical perspectives of special education. They go all the way back to the 1700s, and it is not very nice things that they have had to say about people with disabilities. It does say that what principals need to know and how they can create a supportive environment for special education is pretty much that oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. They need to know how they can create a supportive environment for special education. And there are some recommendations, like developing high quality plans, offering more training, not just to specific teachers or staff, and not just once. This is throughout the years, continuously, and for everyone. And implementing district-wide co-teaching models. The other research article that I did was inclusive school leadership in the context of autism spectrum disorder, law, the case of Chile. So this one talks about how school leadership is super, super, super important and impactful for students, and that there are some downfalls, like the work overload and the burnout and the conflicts with individual rights. Questioning like, well, is this okay? And each person's different, and what you think I think all right. Everyone's deserving of rights, but some people do come into questions about people's rights. It is a process and it is beyond policy. That really, really stood out to me because it is saying is not, you don't just follow these steps and that's it, that works, you know? This is not something that you could just follow for everyone all the time. This is a process that's constantly changing, evolving, growing, and that you and your students are learning from. It's a never ending process. All right, so evidence. All right, so I'm not going to play my interview call recording because it is 12 minutes and I don't think anyone wants to watch this presentation if it's 30 minutes long. I am going to add it down though in the discussion in case anyone does want to listen to it, but I am going to talk about two things that Jocelyn said that really, really stuck with me and helped me decide to become a special education teacher. So I asked her, when there is conflict, um, like you've had conflict before with a student's family member, how did you resolve it? And she said that recently she actually had a disagreement with a student's mom, and that they ended up having a meeting with the mom, and it was so that she would know that even though they had a disagreement, her child was not going to be treated differently, was not going to be excluded, nothing like that. That this was between her and the mom, and that conflict happens sometimes, but that the child was not going to be punished or suffer consequences because of it. I really, really like that because that's taking accountability, but also recognizing that it's okay to have disagreements. We're not all going to always agree or have the same opinions, but being able to reassure and acknowledge that the child is not going to be burdened with this, I think is a wonderful way of doing it. She also talked about how you have to leave your ego and your pride at the door when you go in and work with special education students. You're gonna get hit, call names. Kids are gonna run away from you, and you can't take it personally because they're not doing it because they don't like you. They're doing it because that's how they express themselves or how they react. So you have to be able to be like they're not doing it because it's me, you know, and to be able to not take that home with you or to blame yourself or feel guilty or feel bad, you know. I think that's amazing that these teachers can do that. So new learning, inclusion is not simply having them there. So when I was substitute teaching, this actually made me think about it when I was making this presentation. Um, I was subbing for a SPED teacher in a middle school, and their students were with general education students. And so I went into this one class, and the teacher for it told me that my students were in the last two rows to the side, and they weren't allowed to be partners with any of the other children in the class, and they had separate work. Um, they literally segregated the kids from the rest of the classroom. And I remember thinking like that it felt weird. No other teacher during that day, during that substitute period, did that. It was only that teacher. And I'm realizing that this is where the problem stemmed from. This is the problem teachers. Um because in their minds they're like, "Oh, they're here, so they're being included. They're being inclusive." But that's not what it is. Inclusion is letting someone express themselves and be an individual, to learn on their own, to be included, to socialize, to ask questions, to make their own mistakes. It's not for us special education teachers to be breathing down their back, doing the thinking for them. You know, it's to be there when they need help or assistance, you know. Um, what it is inclusion is treating everyone like a human being. I did get this um, information from Module 3's video, What is Inclusion? Okay, equity. So I learned a lot from the article that I did on the equity gap. So it talked about where biases and stereotypes come from and how to recognize and stop them. I think a lot of it has to come from recognizing your own biases and stereotypes, where they come from, how you're expressing them, and how to stop it. And not just recognizing your own biases, but your own privilege as well. I'm taking another class that is similar to this one, and we were asked to recognize what our privilege was, and it really was eye-opening for me to learn about the intersectionality of all of us, and the that is not just one branch, but is different branches and paths that we all are on and have taken, and how we got there, and who we are is not just one thing, it's many, many different things, and being able to recognize those privileges and the things that keep us down too, depending on what it is, you know. um I think recognizing it is what is the first steps in being able to stop it. But if you can't accept your own flaws and want to fix it, I don't know what to tell you, man. All right, and then there's access. So with the article autism spectrum disorder in Chile, it it talked about going beyond access. So they had said in it, create conditions that extend beyond access to ensure participation and progress in learning with special education students. So, what I understand is that it's not doing the bare minimum. They have access to education, they have access to a classroom. What more? What more do we need to give them? I mean, is that how we treat general population kids or students? No. So why would we treat disabled children that way? It's it's really about treating people like human beings. That's really, it's really what it comes down to. It's not about giving children the bare minimum. It's about helping push them and challenge them to go above and beyond. You know, give them access to the world, not just the front door, you know? I hope that made sense. All right, continued inquiry? Inquiry. I don't know. Now, I want to know how to stay calm when a situation is getting out of hand. So, when I understand that you're supposed to do breathing techniques and meditation and think before you react, but I have a 1 year old and a 3 year old, so I know that is much easier said than done in the moment, you know? Um, when my 3 year old tries to run into the street, I know not to, I shouldn't yell and react, but I do because I get in fight or flight mode, but I don't want to do that. So my question is, how do you keep from doing that with your students? I know that this isn't something that you can really fully learn by just reading about. This is from personal practice, by actually practicing it and being aware and recognizing your mistakes, how you react and changing it. And I also think observation. So observing how other teachers react and what they do in these situations. Um, and recreating it if it works, you know? So my questions for my peers, for you guys, is what do you think is the best de-escalating tactic? I know that it depends, you know, little Susie and little Billy, they're not going to have the same results from a de-escalating tactic if it's the same one, you know, or different behaviors aren't going to have the same de-escalating tactic. But there are some generalized like tips and exercises that we can do. I know like rewards or 1, 2, 3 eyes on me really helps. But if you guys have any others that have worked for you or that you've heard of, that would be awesome to just even know about. If you made it this far, I know it's 20 minutes long. I thank you very much. This is my fourth time making this video, and I really hope I did it right this time. If you made it to the end, you're a real one. It was nice having you for this class.